we do not share our presentation deck, but I'm sure that you can engage with the content on YouTube and it would be as good as the deck. We would like you to become a part of IIBA South Africa. To become a part of us, we're going to put the link in the chat. Please follow the link in the chat and register to be a member of IIBA South Africa. There are a lot of perks to becoming a part of us. We always have our tools and techniques session every Thursday. We have our link coffees on Wednesday morning. We would like for you to join us. Follow us on our LinkedIn page. We're also going to put the link in the chat to see our event and be a part of the event to learn. We'll be glad to have you. And finally, if you have, something you would like to share with the community, you want to present a tool and technique session, please feel free to email us. We're going to put the link in the chat. We thank you for joining us, and we hope that you enjoyed the presentation. Sipho, please take over. You're welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Let me just share my screen. Just let me know when you can see my presentation.
Yep, we can see it.
Is it up? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. I'd like to obviously extend my gratitude to the IIBA community for inviting me back for my second masterclass. I have a long history with this community in particular, and much of my growth has been shaped by the wisdom of senior leaders in the BA profession. I used to be with IQ Business as a consultant, so you can imagine um, we had a lot of BAs there. Your ex-president Tsepo was my leader at some point. So we'll be looking at a topic today around design thinking and empathy, and how to co-create transformative experiences with Gen AI. To those souls in the audience, you could be somewhere else doing something else. We thank you as well if you're not part of the IBA. We value your time, and my personal promise to you this evening is that you are in for an immersive and transformative experience. All right. And we just wanted to know as well from the audience, maybe if you can just pop in the chat if you're not a business analyst, just to get a sense of who else is in the room. And if you could also please have at hand your preferred Gen AI interface or tool. And we'll be using that later to co-create and connect over some of the outputs and make this quite a interactive and a practical learning experience. Now, looking at our agenda, we'll start by defining what transformative experience is after I've shared a bit about myself and my background, which Deborah has already covered. We'll revisit design thinking, and I know most of you have already been exposed to design thinking. And then we'll explore how behavioral design models, with specific focus this evening on the Octalysis gamification framework. We want to look at how these models can be interwoven into the design and product development lifecycle. And to achieve that and to make sure that you have practical tools and techniques to take away from the session, we'll use a fictitious case study by Bank ABC. So we can go through just the motions of applying some of these frameworks to solve real life challenges. So let's delve into it and co-create an evening that's not just insightful, but truly transformative. Well, about myself, you'll see there the CX book of knowledge. I guess that's what's common then between CX and business analysis. So I'm a newly certified customer experience professional, which in the business analysis space would be a CBAP, a certified business analyst analysis professional. And so we also have our book of knowledge, as you also have Babok. So we only on our first revised edition. And I seem to think that in 2020, when I was actually presenting on design thinking with Sipho, you guys were on version 3. You're probably on version 6 by now. And so those are just some of the common sort of traits, right, between the two professions. So I like to call myself a BA as well, but not as a business analyst, but as a behavioral artist. You might have heard of behavioral scientist. So I'm a behavioral artist, and based on what Deborah shared with us, I like to blend analysis with creativity to design human-centered experience. And so, I'm also a BA. A bit more about some of those disciplinary um, lenses of mine. My background spans marketing, project management, UX design, Lean Six Sigma, pretty much, everything when you're in consulting, we'll always be pushed to explore as much as possible, so we're more valuable to our clients. And so before we dive in, I just want to check in the comments. Don't seem to have a view of that, just to see what other professions we have in the house. Maybe Debs, you can shout one or two different ones from business analysis.
Yes, we have business data analyst and strategist, and we have product owner.
Wow, data analysts. I mean, you guys are really
Yes.
becoming quite popular in the day. An age of AI, I was just working with one yesterday. And a product owner. Wow, this is going to be so valuable for you.
Yeah.
Because we are looking beyond just creating functional experiences now. We're tapping more into creating m- emotional as well as transcendental experiences. And that's what we'll be looking into this evening. All right, thanks for that, Debs. Let's jump right into. I think there's something asking me to sign into Zoom here. I'm just trying to skip over. Let me just close that. Okay, there we go. All right, let's look at defining what a transformation is first and foremost, right? And so on this slide, you'll see two definitions on the left and right hand side. And this bring together two powerful perspectives on what it means to experience true transformation. Both definitions highlight that transformation is not surface level change, but a deep and irreversible shift in how we think, feel, and act. Can think of that as triple H, right? Your head, your heart, and hands, or our thoughts, emotions, and behavior. All of those dimensions and spheres of humanity are interlinked. And so let's look at what they say, right? Edmond on the top right there says that transformation involves experiencing a deep structural shift in the basic premises of thought, feelings, and actions. It is a shift in consciousness that dramatically and irreversibly alters our way of being in the world. And so he defines transformation as a deep structural change in our basic assumptions and worldviews. This shift is also irreversible. Once you see the world differently, you cannot go back. It emphasizes transformation as an internal reconfiguration of thought, feelings, and actions. Joe Dispenza on the bottom left explains it as when people are introduced to meaningful ideas in a shared environment, they experience collective shift in consciousness, reshaping their thoughts, emotions, and actions together. And so he focuses on the environment and context that sparks transformation. When people encounter meaningful ideas in a shared space, transformation happens collectively, right? And that's what we're hoping will happen tonight. You guys coming around this topic of behavioral design. The emphasis is on reshaping thoughts, emotions, and actions together, showing that transformation is not only personal, but can be social and communal. We have a lot of environments now, even digital, from social media to Slack, where these environments exist. And in there lies a potential for transformative experiences. And so Sullivan gives us the depth of transformation as being a lasting shift in consciousness and being. And Dispenza gives us the catalyst, being the shared environments and meaningful ideas that trigger that shift. And so together they describe the full arc of transformative experience sparked by collective insight, leading to deep personal and irreversible change. And so, how do we bring it all together? Now, the definition then that I derived from this collectively was to then say a transformative experience is therefore a powerful shift in how we see and understand ourselves, others, and the world. It changes our core beliefs, feelings, and actions in lasting ways, often sparked by new insights or shared moments. It helps us grow into a new way of being that feels more true or connected. Letting that to sink in a bit. And you'll see the diagram on the left-hand side of the screen, the metamorphosis of transformation. And so in the initial stage there, where we have our original perspective, we can see the seed represents our starting point, our current worldview, our habits and ways of being. At this stage, our beliefs and actions are still dormant, holding hidden potential, but not yet awakened. And then we move on into the catalyst phase, where just as water sparks the seed to sprout, transformative experiences often begin with a catalyst. And I know most of you in business are those catalysts of change. A new insight could be a challenge or a shared moment with others that could also serve as a catalyst. This trigger disturbs the status quo and invites us to reconsider how we think, feel, and act. Number three there is around change. At the as the plan grows, it reflects the unfolding of change within us. New thoughts, emotions, and behaviors begin to shape both internally, shifting our mindset, identity, and beliefs. And externally, we'll get to manifest new actions, habits, and relationships. This is the stage where the transformative experience reshapes who we become. And the last stage there around lasting impact. Excuse me. With lasting impact, then finally, the blossoming plant symbolizes the enduring outcomes of transformation. We emerge with a fresh perspective, new strength, and a deeper sense of connection to ourselves, others. The change is no longer temporary, it has become integrated into our identity. It's a new way of being that feels authentic and true. And so that's the potential of transformative experiences in impacting the lives of our customers and even the lives of our loved ones, right? Being in discovery over the past 2 years, with our Vitality program. I've experienced this firsthand, and hence I've become so passionate about it because of the potential it carries to impact so many lives. And as our purpose statement says, make them healthier, enhance, and protect their lives. All right, so we'll jump into using our case study now to start with some activities and look at how we can create transformative experiences using design thinking and infusing in there a behavioral design model. And so I'll ask the host now just to also share this case study with you in the chat so you can always have sight of it. But it's around a fictitious bank ABC, which is one of South Africa's largest and most trusted financial institutions, serving over 8 million clients across urban and peri-urban markets. I think I used to work for one of these banks. Traditionally positioned as a full service retail bank, it has historically offered a strong suite of savings products and investment accounts. However, internal data and market research have uncovered a worrying trend. What's the challenge? Over the past 5 years, the saving rate among South Africans, urban middle class households earning between 15,000 rands and 45,000 rands per month, has steadily declined. Customers report feeling cash stretched, increasingly spending on debt repayment, lifestyle upgrades, and short term gratification. Despite high mobile penetration and access to digital financial services, savings product uptake remains stagnant and most accounts are dormant or underfunded. Cultural insights reveal that saving is seen as a luxury or an act of discipline, not a normal or emotionally rewarding part of life. And so that's at the core of this problem. Um, and what Gen AI now helps us to do is to take all of this research insights and out of it craft a problem statement. An example of which is as follows. And so, in one problem statement, this is how we could rephrase this to help us identify and pinpoint the problem that we're trying to solve for. So, urban middle class South Africans struggle to see the value and emotional reward in saving, often deprioritizing it amidst lifestyle demands and social pressure. How might Bank ABC help reframe saving as an empowering, aspirational, and identity affirming behavior that feels natural, habitual, and culturally resonant in everyday life? So it is clear that we need some transformation of sort because this is a change at a much deeper level. And so, how do we then use design thinking to help us in achieving that objective? We'll now delve into design thinking. If we could just have a, I think we'll skip the poll now, given the time around design thinking. I know most of you have already been exposed to this thought. And so with design thinking, it's just basically a human-centered innovation framework that was popularized by design firm IDEO. And IDEO showed the world that design isn't just about making products look good. It's about deeply understanding people's needs, then creating solutions that are desirable for users, that are viable for the business, and feasible with technology. And so it has those 5 stages that you go through. Empathize, which helps us understand people through observation and engagement. Define, which then helps us frame the problem around human needs. like we saw now with the problem statement coming out of the case study. So the case study I read out was part of the empathize, but then we had to reframe that, which would be part of define, reframed into a problem statement. We'll then go into a process of generating ideas to help us solve for that design challenge. We'll test those ideas through prototype, and that's bringing ideas to life quickly and cheaply so, and then get real world feedback to then iterate and improve on those ideas. And so, how do we go about doing so? So we'll look at the empathize phase. And for this particular phase around empathize, I would ask the host to share with you in the chat a design challenge that you will please fit into your Gen AI tool, and just share one or two of the outputs that come out of there. Um, Deborah, do you guys have that one available? It says you are a South African middle class professional earning between
Yes,
20K to 35K. All right,
yes,
if you could just please share it with the audience in the chat,
right away.
and we'll give it about a minute for the audience just to copy and paste it as is in your Gen AI tool, be that ChatGPT, Copilot, Grok, Gemini. Um, the prompt there asks specifically for your LLM to generate 5 ideas. Maybe just pick one or two and post them in the chat, and let's hear what we get as one of the solutions that we can take forward. So this is not on solutions as yet, right? Remember, it's in our empathize phase, and we're trying to understand what our customers are dealing with. And as part of empathize, as it says there with the emotions, we're also trying to uncover some of their unarticulated needs, some of their fears and emotions. Are we getting some answers in the chat?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, if you just can call out some of those.
Um, we have one that says emotions, anxiety, fear, uncertainty, fears, uncertainty, motivations, financial security, or peace of mind. I have another one that says the emotion is anxiety or pressure. The fear include friends, family, or colleagues expect visible sign of success, such as car upgrade, eating out, branded clothes, and vacation. And motivation include avoid judgment or being seen as struggling in inverted comma. Joanne, and then Adeli says fear of missing out, FOMO, like social media and peer pressure can make you feel like you're missing out on experiences such as dining out, traveling, when you see your friends attending events. This fear can lead to
Wow.
overspending, etc. We have financial insecurity, pressure to support family, such as black
Mm.
tax or extended family, and motivation for freedom and stability to
That's
break
incredible.
of
That's
living.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you very much for that. So we can see how we can use Gen AI to be our partner throughout this process, right? Of empathizing with our customers. I mean, what you guys have just come up with really opens up this whole entire landscape and brings out all the nuances. And as we immerse ourselves in those experiences, we also ourselves start to get emotionally engaged, and really feel like we are walking in those customers' shoes, right? So it really broadens up our lens, as opposed to how we used to tackle such problems in the past, where we will just lock ourselves up in the boardroom and try and make assumptions. But this really helps us now to walk in those customer shoes, and these are good as thought starters to just broaden up our perspectives, right? Just to say, um, you know, the customers themselves, if you had asked them some of this emotions that they're struggling with, the fears and motivations they would not be able to articulate. But their Gen AI is helping us become more human, right? By helping us empathize with customers. And then we can then break those down into those disparate components and really go in and do a bit of research around the culture of black text, do a bit of research around someone saving up for my lobol, but just the nuances, it becomes a lot more richer. And for some of us who are designers, who the entire squad and team looks to come up with some of these ideas, this really puts the power even in the most analytical of individuals. We have actuaries here, that thought they never had a creative bone. But with this thought status, they're able to also then immerse and delve into that world of art. Um, and then that makes it a lot more easier for us to really traverse between, having our heads in the clouds, thinking of all these ideas and emotions, and coming down from that level of thinking creatively in the art space, and coming down into the trenches to really engineer those experiences into the lives of our customers. So this is really beautiful. So looking at Define, that's reframing the savings as a cultural issue, right? And Define looks at turning those insights into a clear human-centered problem statement, right? And so there is another prompt here. Yeah, all right, you'll take what your Gen AI has generated, all those emotions that you were reading out, and reframe it as an elicitation question. So you can imagine now coming in from a BA perspective, and you're going back to your clients and you asking them all these questions to say, but have you thought about this aspect of the culture, um, by eliciting more of some of those uncovered or uncovered emotions. If AI mentions fear of missing out, for instance, between saving and spending on social activities, you could pose that as a trade-off that customers could be making. And that's just around define. Going into ideate, let's see. All right, before we get to the Octalysis here framework, I wanted for us to just generate some ideas, and I think you have the prompt there on your side, Debs, where it asks for us to just generate 3 ideas of that challenge. If you can just please share it with the audience, and then we can have our second activity where you put that as it is through your Gen AI tool.
Sipho, do you mean the give me 3 fun and creative ways to, motivate me to
Yes.
save money? Okay.
Yes, so that will be then part of ideate. So what I wanted to demonstrate here to the audience is that at each one of the stages throughout um, the Gen AI, throughout the design thinking phase, we could use Gen AI as our partner to help us become more human. And so as you run that exercise, I'll be taking you through what we call the Octalysis framework. And the Octalysis framework is one of the behavioral design models that we'll be looking at. And why I bring it up at this stage is that we will infuse this at the ideate phase, right? So keep your ideas for now as I talk you through this model. So Octalysis is a human motivation framework created by Yukai Chao there. He's a pioneer in gamification. It breaks down why people do what they do into 8 core drives, as you can see them on the screen, of human behavior. These drives are the building blocks behind our choices. Whether it's why we keep playing a game, why we share on social media, or why we abandon a savings account. The design products, services, and experiences that people want to engage with, not just feel obligated to. And this is where Octalysis helps us. And so, can we get some of the ideas while I share on some of these core drives? You can just put them in the chat. So, core drive number one looks at epic meaning and calling. What drives people to um, want to do something meaningful in their lives, to drive them to become part of something bigger than ourselves. Number two is around development and accomplishment. There's the drive to level up, improve, and achieve mastery. And I believe that's why most of you are in this room with us on this masterclass. You are driven by that core drive, right? That's the motivation behind it, development and accomplishment. But on number three, on the other side of the Octalysis framework here, is empowerment of creativity and feedback. This is the drive to use one's creativity and adjusting through feedback. Number four is ownership and position. And this is the drive to collect, accumulate, and organize. And why they say it's a gamification model. You can imagine when playing a game, there's badges that you collect, there's leaderboards where you want to own a certain space, there's points. And so people are driven by that ownership and position. But social influence on the far right there plays a big role, especially nowadays, right? And that's around social influence and relatedness, right? I would like to think of myself as an influencer in the behavioral design space, hence my identity also aligns with me being a behavioral artist. And you would also like to do a similar thing in your field. Scarcity and impatience is the drive to obsess over what we see but cannot have. And you can already imagine, right? These techniques are used quite a lot in gaming, in gambling. Uh, Number seven is around unpredictability and curiosity, and number eight around loss and avoidance. And so these are some of those core drives. Yukai claims these are all the drives around human motivation. Um, Maybe let's just share some of the ideas that are coming forward there around the ideate phase, and then I'll just show you shortly how this framework could also be infused in that particular phase of design thinking.
Awesome. We have one, the mystery envelope game, where
Wow.
you write different amount, 50 Rand, 100 and 200 Rand on 10 to 15 different envelopes. You seal them and shuffle them. Each week you randomly pick one envelope and whatever is inside you must save. So it's exciting, it stimulates curiosity and surprise. And it feels like a treat to open the envelope and you can reward yourself, if you eat your saving streak. We have another one from Johan that says, I think it's basically the same thing. So it brings about one question that we would ask later. This thing of like, what if Jen Heha is giving us all the same idea? We have some ideas from Liana that says you can have secret agent saving. You treat each contribution like a mission. You earn points. I think that ties in with the development and accomplishment point in Octalysis. Reverse bucket list, where you list financial fears you want to avoid and cross one off for each amount that you have saved. That's interesting. Social saving there, where you can compete with your friends, you track goals on a scoreboard, and losers do a fun there. We have another one, 52 weeks saving challenge. where you kind of like turn savings into a year-long game by participating in the 52-week saving challenge. You can start with very small amounts like 10 Rand and 20 Rand, increasing it as the week goes by. So those are the ideas
Wow.
we have in the chat box.
All right, so you guys have solved the problem that's been bothering the bank for years in just a couple of minutes. Can we just see some? You could give yourself a round of applause, please. You've been brilliant designers. You see, everyone can become a designer.
Awesome.
And this is how then that framework would be infused in the design thinking process, right? So infusing octalysis in design on the left-hand side, these are all the 8 core drives. On the left-hand side, these are the ones at the top of that octagon. They call them the intrinsic one because they drive deep emotional motivation, meaning, personal development, creativity. And then you get to the middle ones that are the ownership and social. So those are pretty much in the middle, but what they call the black hat core drives are the ones at the bottom three, right? And these are the ones that are predominantly used in gamification to get people addicted to gambling and so forth, right? People always fear that they will lose something. There's always a rush for scarcity. People always think things will run out, and just always think looking forward to the next thrill. What's unpredictable, what is that surprise. And so you can see how infusing this then into the design thinking process can help you come with human-centered ideas that will really drive behavior. And then you being analysts, you can then work that into your requirements, your user stories, accept acceptance criteria to make sure that you build solutions that are more human-centered. Um, and wow, I managed to make it on time. But yeah, let's connect if you want to learn more about that. And I've got one more bonus for you. So that's me using Octalysis on you, right? And I'm using that predictability factor. Any of you who's read Atomic Habits, I've alluded a lot to the identity factor, right? And in Atomic Habits, it says that when we talk about behavioral change, two powerful lenses come together beautifully. Um, and I'm bringing together now this Octalysis framework and James Clear's Atomic Habits, right? With Atomic Habits, James here shows us that sustainable change happens across these 3 layers. The outcomes at the top, processes or systems, and then identity, who we believe we are. I'm the kind of person who saves consistently, is a saver. In this case study is what they could identify as. And the process that they would follow, as one of the examples that was shared, would be to setting up a debit order and budgeting weekly, and the outcome with them would be them saving money. And so Clear in this book reminds us that real change is identity change. It all stems from here. And what we do as organizations is that we want to start with the outcomes and work from outside in. But we must first start with identifying some of those cultural nuances, what they identify with, what their experiences are, and what matters to them from that level of identity, and work it outward then to craft a way that could get them to a desired outcome. I mean, as a health insurance company here, we could say to Sally, who's 30 years old, that she must lose weight because in a couple of years she might get a heart attack or something to that effect, right? But negative health effects. But that's because that would be what we see from business perspective. But if someone had taken time to understand Sally better, they would know that Sally would like to have a body ready for summer and sell from that identity. Say, Sally, if you complete the set of activities, you could look this good. And that's something that could be more appealing. She couldn't care less about, what would happen to me 10 years from now. She's young and enjoying her life. And so that is quite key then to also understand. So this link directly then to the octalysis, particularly the core drives around meaning, social influence, when people's sense of who they are or who they want to become aligns with motivation, their thoughts, emotions, perceptions, the shift, right? And that shift is what drives systems or processes in that middle circle there, and ultimately determines the outcome in that outer circle. So identity is the engine of motivation. When people see themselves as savers, in this case study that we're tackling, every thought, every emotion, and action begins to align, shaping their processes and outcomes in the real world. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your attention.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Sipho. There is a reason why you are the very much respected Sipho Sepeng, and you have not lost your touch, you have not lost your flavor. It's so, so good to listen to you, to learn from you. And I know that everyone on the group feels that way. Nisa says, thank you, Sipo. Liana says, this is a great presentation, but it is too short. Yes, Sipo, we could listen to you for a masterclass, PDD, a whole day. Johan says, I cannot believe the session is over already. It was a fantastic insight, and I really echo all the sentiments that we have here. So once again, thank you so much, Sipo. I think
You are
I've
so
gotten
welcome.
a lot of insights, pleasure, Sipho. Nisa says it needs to be a whole day of deep diving. I couldn't agree less. I wrote down a couple of things, and I'm going to go with a nugget that you just dropped, which is identity is the engine of motivation. That really struck with me. We're going to get into the session of question and answer. Please, if you have questions, please ask. We have one hand raised. I don't know who raised your hand. Is it me? Okay. Sipo, before we go get into the question and answer session, I'm going to come from a backdrop. You give us your context from your domain, which is health insurance, and it's beautiful. I come also from, I can relate with that domain. I come from a background where we have the issue of designing telemedicine platforms and systems for users where people who do not have access to healthcare can leverage this platform, leverage the technology to reach their doctors without the hassles of physical logistics, and all of that. But users refuse to use these platforms. And I found out that as much as this is so in South Africa, in Nigeria, it is also so in Australia. And it's kind of like concerning, like, why do we have this technology that proved to solve people's problem, but they seem not to just care. They couldn't care about using these technologies to solve problems. But I think while you were presenting, you said design is not about making product look good. You said it's about understanding people's needs and providing solution that meets this needs. I think this can be a change in perspective when we inculcate this thought into the way that we design solution for people. And I really, really thank you. We have question from
Yeah,
Baron. Yes.
sorry, man. Yeah, I just want to jump into that, right? Dr. BJ Fogg came up with this behavior model, and all of this other behavioral um, scientists still abide by that model, right? Or a formula rather. Oh, what happened here? Okay. That behavior, or B equals MAT, right? So which means that B is for behavior, M is for motivation,
Mm,
A is for ability, and T is for triggers, right? And so to get a certain behavior
Mm,
from people, you must make
mm,
sure that there is motivation. We've just looked at motivation now with all of these 8 core drives. All right.
mm,
Are people motivated either from an epic meaning perspective, something that they can own, but also how easy is it then to do this screening, right? So that speaks to A, which is ability. If I have
mm,
to drive all the way into town to do the screening, it's really not worth my while. And T, that is for a trigger.
mm.
Have you guys identified triggers that would appeal to their internal nudges or their internal,
Mm,
you know, motivations
mm,
as well as their external ones. So you need
mm,
to do that piece of work, and it's exactly what we have just done now with this case study,
mm,
understanding some of the contextual elements around that customer base as well, and
mm,
setting up triggers,
mm.
linking those to motivations and the desired outcomes.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Sipho. I've noted that. Um, and we have a very good question here from Baron. He says, is the divine face in design thinking related to defined face in Six Sigma, the Mike model?
Yeah, so is it Byron?
Yes, Baron.
Yeah. So I did the green belt, right, in Lean Six
Mm,
Sigma.
mm,
And what we had in engineering or process engineering is that we were more efficiency focused, right? We were so
mm,
focused about um, doing things right, right? And they define the applies this internal lens, right?
mm,
Um, are we spending enough time on this activity? Are we producing enough outputs? And so that is not customer focused. It doesn't focus on the customer and then working that into our processes and technology. So it's two different lenses. The define here would be defining what we would have empathized. So with empathize, we would have gone and immersed ourselves in the customer's natural context and environment through what we call ethnographic studies. And then when we come back to debrief, that's when we would define and reframe that whole experience and time you spent with customers into problem statements and design challenges. So, two different lenses, one inside out and design thinking approaches outside in.
Thank you so much, Sipo. Baron, I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, please feel free to keep to unmute and ask another question or supporting question. I think we have a question also from Lihana. Um, Lihana,
Hi,
uh,
Liana.
do you want to unmute? I'm struggling to recover your question.
Where did I ask a question? I said start a Stockville.
That's a good idea.
Okay,
Oh,
can you hear
okay.
me?
I can't remember my
I hear
question,
you.
sorry.
Yes, loud
No,
and
but this
clear.
no, but this was great. This was really
Thank you.
practical. And I like the idea of the customer being brought into the picture instead of just
Yes,
always the system or the process.
absolutely.
So yeah, I
I
like
agree
it.
with
Thank
you.
you.
Liana, your comment was
Okay.
right at the top where it said, I see this also being applicable in our everyday lives, not only in business.
Yes,
So
Yeah,
true, so true. I mean,
yes,
what your
I've got
kids are motivated by, right?
yes.
Or even your spouse.
Especially,
This will
yeah,
give you influence and power over him if you know that he's
mm,
an onus and position kind of guy, right?
yeah,
mm.
love it.
mm,
Thank you, Sipo.
Awesome.
I hope
right.
you don't
Thank
No,
use it
thank you,
for
Sipho.
evil, yeah.
Yes, I have a question, and I love the idea of using generative AI to kind of generate synthetic data that can help you to empathize with customers and to even ideate. You can even use it to define. If you can prompt your generative AI nicely, you can use it to define the problem, or maybe use it to guide your journey to defining exactly what the problem is, and then using it to generate ideas as we did or simulated during the session. But my worry
Yes.
is from the ideas that we were generating, it felt like we had similar ideas. Right. So I think Johan's idea and my idea were in sync or similar. So I'm
Yes.
thinking, when is there a possibility to now become over reliant on this tool to the point where creativity, I mean the real creativity, is maybe destroyed, or just it takes a back bench while we rely on these tools, and now businesses, if they build the ideas on this tool, on generative AI tools, might lose their competitive advantage, because as it is giving discovery this idea, it is also giving best made the same idea. Do you think this is a possibility, and if so, how can we mitigate this possibility?
So just in
Yes.
my mind, what you said, sorry, Sipho, is that you got a similar result, I got a similar result,
Yes.
and but because we used the same wording, so I
Mm.
wonder if it's not possibly in the wording where you actually find the differentiation that would come in. But yeah, you
Yeah, you're
know,
right about that, Joanne. I mean, also that, but like I also um, mentioned earlier, right? These are just
mm,
thought starters, but you would be in different
yes,
environments, right? When you
yes,
take an idea, you will still unpack it. Then
Mm.
you look to efficiencies internally, right? Do we
mm,
have the systems to deliver this? How does this also connect well in our ecosystem with our other set of products? And you'll see after a set number of iterations, it would have taken a different form.
mm,
So I built the what I call this Create GPT, right? And in
mm,
the GPT, can you guys see my screen?
yes,
Yes, we can.
You can see my GPT there, hey?
yeah,
Yes, we can.
mm-hmm,
Okay. All right. So if I go into I did. So you can see in the knowledge base, I've attached our CX Borg, I've attached all the different
mm,
behavioral design models,
uh-huh,
jobs to be done, and so forth. And then you'll see I've also prompted it. I'll be using the same one as you used. So if I say here, so it's stuck in here. So asked it to generate 5 ideas whenever I start off with brainstorm and
mm,
add a design challenge. And you'll
mm,
see
yeah,
how it generates those. And I've been clear in my instructions, right, to
yes,
also make them in a tabular format, bring up the Octalysis framework, and there you go, right?
mm,
So I
mm,
can see which behavioral economic principle it links to. It links to core drive number 2, which is around development. This idea would be called the treasure chest. And every time you save,
mm,
you unlock part of that. And it's all 5 of them, a mystery envelope. And this is a set of ideas because people fail to even get to this point. But if you take this um, as your thought starters, you have science to link it to in terms of
mm,
behavioral economics, the Octalysis framework, all these behavioral models, which all these
mm,
behavioral scientists have proven, and our actuaries then can easily run models to see if it delivers to that particular outcome. And so these are
uh-huh,
thought starters,
yes,
but
yeah,
building your own agent in
mm,
a GPT, like
mm,
I have here, ideation has become a lot more easier, but I
yeah,
don't leave it at this level, right? It's something
yes,
that we would then have a workshop and unpack further where
mm,
different stakeholders from different disciplines would also relate their own experiences. Our engineers would also say, hey, this could work so well on this feature, but this is how we could further pivot and adapt it. So it's just to get the team going, because most teams get
The thought
stuck at
process.
just the thought
The
process.
thought
So
process.
exactly. So it's all just mental models that help us make better progress throughout the design method.
Awesome,
Fantastic. Thanks.
awesome. Thank you so much, Sipho. I think my takeaway from what you just shared, if you go to the previous slide, is how you built your own knowledge agent, on ChatGPT, using all of the documents, that matters to you. So it's like you have your own brain box and
Yes.
you are not relying on a generic, oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
This is beautiful.
I mean, you
Thank
can
you.
build your own to build out your requirements and create, so it doesn't have to take forever now to do a BRD and things like that, right? Because you can assign that to an agent. But I've specifically said I want to just craft the experiences that help humans succeed.
Yes.
And so that's what create. I should have actually named it after my wife because it's been so good to me. I should name it Fels. Um, but that's what it does for me, right?
Oh,
It's powerful stuff, I promise you.
excellent.
Wow.
You see,
Wow.
Sipho, we could keep you here the whole night, eh?
Yes, I
Okay, let me
agree.
get back to my family.
We are 7 minutes. We are 7 minutes out of time, but it's just so sweet.
Shame, yes.
Listening to you, learning from you. My
Wow.
anticipation has been building since I, started to look forward to this session. And
Mm,
I must say that I'm not disappointed in any way. And I think everyone on the platform, please, if you agree, just send reactions, clapping emojis, love, hearts, flowers,
absolutely.
just as a token of appreciation to Sipo. I'm so sorry. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sipo, for this time. Thank you for the knowledge that you have given us. I think as much as we would have loved you to download everything that you know.
I can't download it. So how am I getting my comments? If okay,
Yeah.
I see you guys. Because I need something to reflect on later when I get home. At least I need something to take home to my wife, right?
Yeah,
Awesome.
fantastic.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Also, thank
you.
you for staying beyond the time, and thank you for joining us. Please look forward to further programs and also to our BA Summit coming up in a couple of weeks. It's always the blast, and this time around, you'll also not be disappointed. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming through, and see you in the next session. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks so much.